Alongside our real-world tracks like the Nürburgring and Spa, racing games have historically featured a bunch of made-up fictional tracks designed by the developers themselves, and often these tracks are designed because they wouldn't be possible in real life, maybe because of safety or licensing, or maybe just because they would be way too expensive. Some of the tracks that these developers end up making though end up being really, really good. So good that Herman Tilke should probably use them as inspiration. So today I'll be counting down my top 10 fictional race tracks that I've raced on in racing games. There's some real sim racing games tracks in there. There's some less simulation-y tracks in there. There's, unsurprisingly, some Gran Turismo and some Forza, and maybe some other games that you may have forgotten. So let's go take a look. So let's start with the 10th best fantasy fictional track of all time, and this is Circuito de Rio de Janeiro in Forza Motorsport. A version of this track originally did appear in the OG Forza Motorsport before the current version appeared in Forza Motorsport 6 and again in Forza Motorsport 7. This track is long. It is over 6 kilometers and it starts with a long curving stretch that's next to a beach. And it's like you drive under a big race control bridge, which is really nice. Once you get to Rio, there is a right-hander that has like these street side curbs that you can drive over, and it makes your car like jump up and stuff. I'm a sucker for this kind of like track design. I remember the tracks in the Race Driver Grid game, had a bunch of this. I loved it. This track then blasts uphill past a bunch of colourful houses into a low, long right-hander through a tunnel, and then follows tram tracks to the top of the hill where you're driving straight towards the Christ Redeemer before the track goes left and heads really fast downhill into the city. There's a tricky section with like way too many tyre bundles where it feels like the game's like wanting you to crash into them. And then you drive back onto the main straight past the Circuito de Rio de Janeiro sign. This is, I think, the most beautiful track on this list. I love the direction that Forza went with creating its street tracks. They feel a little kind of unrealistic at times. The barriers are in weird places that don't make a lot of sense, but they're just so bright and colourful and just very, very pretty. The next track on this list is Island Outskirts. This is a track from Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, and this is the PS2 version that I'm talking about. Fun fact, there was like 2 versions of this game. There was like a PC Xbox version and a PS2 version that was done by Black Box, and the PS2 version of this track looks, in my opinion, like better. It is brighter, and it has like a bright red bridge that you drive across to start the lap, which is like my main memory of this track growing up. It is really high speed. The first sector is like a really high speed slalom section where you're just going left, right, left, right, left, right. It's like a highway, so you can drive on both sides of the road, which gives you many opportunities to drive through trees and things like that. The ending has a shortcut via the beach, and there's also a volcano in the middle just to spice it up a bit. I think this is a really perfect track to kind of show the old school Need for Speed style. It's really wide, it's super high speed, and it's great for like racing high-speed cars and dodging cops. A lot of the tracks in this game are amazing. This beat out some really good ones, including from the original Hot Pursuit game, Atlantica, which was like my favorite track from there. There are a lot more tracks we see in Need for Speed games these days, but they've kind of gone open world, so we don't really see these kind of really well-designed circuit tracks anymore, which makes me a bit sad. But yeah, number 9, Island Outskirts. Number 8 on this list is from Sega Rally 2, and that is the mountain stage. I wasn't sure if I should include a Sega Rally stage in here, but I chose this one from Sega Rally 2 as I think it's actually a really well-designed bunch of corners. The opening section, you drive across the bridge, and then you're through the town, you're like on the edge of hitting every barrier, you got people jumping in front of you and stuff, classic rally style. And once it gets to the mountainside, you have super type hairpins mixed with fast sweepers, and the final right-hander has like 4 apexes, and then there's a bit of dirt, and then a left-hander to the finish. This stage is really great. The physics in this game feel absolutely ridiculous and wrong on so many levels, but I kind of love it. Also, the soundtrack here is an absolute banger. 11 out of 10. If I did have to pick another stage from Sega Rally though, it would be the mountain stage from Sega Rally 1. I will give an honourable mention to. That's also a very fun stage. But this Sega Rally 2 version I think is the most well designed. Feels like every corner is very deliberate, and it's probably my favourite. Number 7 on this list is Trial Mountain from Gran Turismo, and this is an absolute classic of Gran Turismo. This has appeared in the original game, and it's appeared in basically every other mainline Gran Turismo game since then. And this track, for starters, has a really good mix of high speed and technical sections. The first few corners I think are really underrated, with like a left-right over a crest into a super banked high speed left before a tightening left through a tunnel. There's some really tricky, kind of surprisingly fast corners through the rocks as well, where I don't know how to describe them other than that, like, the apexes are really hard to find. They're really strange apexes through the end of the first sector in this lap. Then there's the back straight through the trees. When I played this on Gran Turismo 3 for the first time, I saw the God Rays. I thought it was incredible. And yeah, otherwise, the final corner is probably the most well-known. It is a super fast chicane, and if you do hit the second bit close to the wall, it'll basically flip your car. Well, it won't flip your car because it's Gran Turismo, but it'll spin you out at very high speed. I have memories of doing shuffle races here in Gran Turismo 5, and it went unreasonably hard. Like, I think I won a race 3 wide across the line in a photo finish whilst going backwards because I launched it off that final chicane. This track did receive a big overhaul for Gran Turismo 7. The main change was changing this crazy old chicane at the end for a very boring left and right sequence. That corner sucks. It's really bad. But every other corner that they changed on the track, I actually like. So if we ignore that final change that they made, the Gran Turismo 7 version of Trial Mountain is probably my favorite. The track also has a monkey. It also has the Loch Ness monster. Bonus points for that. But yeah, Trial Mountain is a great track from Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo has a bunch of other tracks as well that are amazing. I want to shout out some others that didn't make it on this list, like Midfield Raceway, Grand Valley Raceway, Tokyo R246, Seattle Circuit, Lago Maggiore, and Red Rock Valley. There's so many good tracks in that game, but that's my number 7. Number 6 on this list is Dinosaur Canyon from Daytona USA, and I really love the beginner track in this game, but when you take a step back and you look at it, you realize how well designed the advanced track in Daytona USA is. It starts with a standing start, which is already a very Sega interpretation of stock car racing, before heading past like a really ominous danger sign with what I'm like certain is the nuclear symbol. Don't know about that. And there's like a banked run up a really long right-hander before you kind of go to the top of the mountain into a tunnel. At the top of the hill, it spits you out into this like really high-speed right, left, right kind of chicane thing through a checkpoint. You'll smash the car down into 3rd gear and then up to a 4th gear, completely wrecking your gearbox, but that's how you drive the car at this track. At the top of the hill, there is this really weirdly off-camber right-hander where you'll probably go down to 2nd gear and then back to 4th. And then there is a left-hand hairpin that is really banked. And then the final corner, which is another right-hand hairpin, but always you feel like you're doing it wrong whenever you drive it. I don't think I've ever driven that corner and felt like I got it right. But yes, and that's the final corner onto the main straight. Daytona USA is the best arcade racing game that's been made, and this is probably the best track in the game. The expert track, I think, is just like, I love the expert track, but it is just needlessly difficult. And the beginner track, you just drive and then you just pull 2nd gear at the Sonic sign and then you go back to 4th. And it's a little bit too easy. So I think Dinosaur Canyon is a perfect mix of the two. It's great. It's lots of fun to drive. Just don't drive backwards because then you'll lose your sponsors. Number 5 on this list is Coca-Cola Super Speedway. Now, Coca-Cola Super Speedway first appeared in NASCAR Racing 2003 season. I played this game as a kid. I didn't even know what NASCAR was or why all the tracks were ovals. I was in Australia. I just got the game. I was like, this is kind of fun. I don't know why every corner only goes left, which means that I really didn't understand how good this track is. I also didn't know that it was completely fictional. I just knew it was my favorite track in the game. This track is extremely big. It is a very large oval with 2 fully straight straightaways and banking that is 36 degrees, which is a lot of banking. It's also got these grandstands that could probably hold about 1 million spectators if they all wanted to turn up. And the main thing is that there is no restrictor plate included in this game. So it's like super mega fast. It's also ridiculous how many Gs that you pull into the corners. It feels like your drive is just getting pushed into the seat when you're going through the banking. Some of the NASCAR Racing 2003 developers in Papyrus went on to start first, which ended up developing iRacing, and a few years ago they actually built iRacing Superspeedway, which is to this day the only fictional track in iRacing that you can race on, and it's based off this track, and it is still fun in iRacing, but now you can race it whenever you want. It feels like every week 13, iRacing puts on a bunch of servers with like Cup cars, Indy cars, and Formula Vs. It's wild, there's lots of crashes, but it's a lot of fun, and you can fit like 8 cars side by side. This track beat out some other NASCAR games that just missed the cut, and these are both Old Spice Speedway and Tiburon Raceway Stadium. These are from like the NASCAR Thunder console games by a different developer, but also both very good tracks as well. Number 4 on this list is Seaside Route 765. Seaside Route 765 is the main track from Ridge Racer. It is the track you would have raced at as in the beginner track if you drove the OG arcade game. And it's also in like Ridge Racer 2, Rave Racer, Rage Racer, Ridge Racer Revolution, Ridge Racer 64, Ridge Racer 3DS, Ridge Racer DS, Ridge Racer Turbo, Ridge Racer Accelerated, Ridge Racer Drift, Ridge Racer 5, Ridge Racer 6, Ridge Racer 7, and Ridge Racers 1 and 2. It turns out there's a lot of Ridge Racer games, and this one appears in a lot of them. The lap begins with a run under a big old super screen. In the arcade game, it actually shows your lap time, which is pretty cute. In more recent games, it shows kind of fun Ridge Racer videos. And then the first turn is through a tunnel before a blast uphill across a bridge, and then downhill into a coastal beach section with a high-speed chicane. And once you're there, there's a few more downhill jumps in and out of a tunnel before a final corner that's like a highway version of Monza's Parabolica that leads you back onto the main straight. I think I've done like 1,000 laps of this place in my life, and it's pretty iconic, and I think it definitely deserves a spot in the top 10. This track did beat out some other Ridge Racer tracks that I wanted to include, including ones from Rave City, as well as Helter Skelter and Shooting Hoops from Ridge Racer Type 4. Number 3 on my list is Tobin Raceway. Tobin Raceway is from R-Factor, and I think every sim racer who played R-Factor has done an obscene amount of laps at this track. The first corner is a super high-speed right-hander that goes uphill before a kink to the left, and next is a downhill run into a hairpin that kind of tightens on the exit. The track then makes its way slowly uphill through sweepers before a blind right-hander at the top. The lap then ends with a downhill right-hander into a fast left. The final corner is like a right-left chicane, and then a high-speed kind of fast right onto the main straight. It is super undulating as a track, but also somehow it feels completely flat, like there's no banking or camber or anything. But there is, but it feels like there isn't. I don't know how to describe it. You can also use like every single curb that you see, which is very nice. This track is fun, and I recommend driving it in a Renault Megane, because that's what you used to have to do. Kids these days don't know how good they have it. They jump into iRacing or like Le Mans Ultimate or whatever with all the ranking systems and organized races and servers and stewarding and iRating. But back in my day, all we had was Tobin Raceway, a dodgy Megane mod that we downloaded off Sim Raceway, and that one server that was regularly populated, which spat out Megane races like every 30 minutes. You'd join a server, you'd get absolutely annihilated at the first corner by some driver on 400 ping whose name is like Carslayer69, and then you'd sign up and you'd do it again. And that was sim racing back in 2009, and Tobin Raceway was the place that you would do it. Number 2 on my list is Fujimi Kaido, and now I was only put onto this track recently, but holy moly is it good. This one was only recently added to the most recent Forza Motorsport game as well, but it did appear in the original Forza Motorsport, as well as in Forza Motorsport 3 and 4. This track is a long blast through the mountain roads of Japan. It's really, really long. Expect like kind of Nordschleife lap times, but the corners are surprisingly well thought out. My theory is that in these games, the more corners developers get to play with, the more creative they get with what they actually want to make, I guess, if that makes sense. and it definitely shows in this track. It has everything that you would expect from a Japanese mountain pass. It's got turnpikes that you're doing U-turns on. There's red bumpy boys that you drive over before some corners. There's cherry blossoms. There's tunnels that lead into other tunnels. There's one elevated road that just comes out of the mist, like something out of a movie. There's a waterfall. There's a torii gate at the start and end of the lap. There's a big old temple at the top of the hill that you're driving up. It's very, very good. The main thing about this track though is that every corner seems to flow really, really well. There's way too many corners here to go into detail with, but it just has a remarkable flow to it that you don't understand until you drive it. It is surprisingly high speed, with a bunch of blind high-speed corners that really kind of reward track knowledge and commitment. But yeah, people have re-downloaded the new-ish Forza Motorsport game just to race this track. I've done that. I downloaded the new Forza Motorsport game just to drive this track. It's great. I love it. It's one of the few tracks I feel like I can drive over and over again, and I think it's probably the second best fictional racetrack ever made. Number 1 on my list is Dragon Trail Seaside from Gran Turismo, and this is maybe controversial to put it at number 1, but I honestly don't think it is. Dragon Trail Seaside first appeared in Gran Turismo Sport, and it's also in Gran Turismo 7, and I think it is the perfect racetrack. For starters, it's got beautiful scenery with mountains in the distance. The track starts with a really kind of fast uphill chicane into a right-hand kink into a braking zone, and then another right-hander that leads into a middle section of the track, which has basically gradually opening sweepers that have you right on the edge of grip in no matter what car you drive. After that, you head into a downhill section and a braking zone before the final section of this track, and the final section goes really, really hard. For starters, you have the death chicane. At the first right-left, you take completely flat out before tipping your car into the actual left-right of the death chicane. And the way you put your car is to completely climb the curb through the right-hander. You almost drop your car off the edge of the curb, right on the edge of the wall. It feels like you're on the edge of death every lap that you drive. Then it's a flat out blast through a tunnel where you can take a lot of really cool photos before the final corner. This final corner looks really, really boring on paper, but I'm going to break it down because I think this final corner demonstrates best why I love this track and why I think it's so well designed. On paper, it's just a right-hand hairpin leading onto the main straight, but there is just so much going on in the design of this corner. For starters, the run into it curves to the left, which means that it doesn't seem like much, but if you are racing another car and you want to defend, you'll want to defend to the inside, which means you take a longer distance into this corner, which means the attacking car gets to run a shorter distance and they'll get more alongside you. You brake around the start of the curb on the left for this corner, and the closer that you get to the actual apex, the track starts to bank. And the apex is actually super late, with the more banking being on the outside. It also goes uphill as you progress through the corner, so you can carry way more speed into it than you think as you want to use all of the camber, and also your car naturally loses speed as it turns uphill. The run out of this corner then kinks to the left, coming to the start-finish line. It doesn't seem like much, but it means that if someone's held you around the outside, that they're going to actually get a shorter run to the line that you would if you were defending. Basically, what this does is this corner encourages drivers to attack, to defend, and to run too wide, and to pass cars on the outside. And every corner on the track is like this in a slightly different way. There's no wonder that this track has created basically all of the crazy close finishes that happen in the Gran Turismo World Series. It flows beautifully. I think it just encourages aggressive racing, and it's my favorite fictional track I've ever raced. I can do laps here forever and not get bored. It's very, very good. So those are my top 10 fictional tracks of all time. Let me know in the comments your thoughts if I've missed any big ones. Don't say that I missed Dragon Trail Gardens, because that's actually the worst track of all time. Did you know that? Dragon Trail Seaside's the best. Dragon Trail Gardens is the worst. Also Sardinia, also terrible. There's a lot of terrible tracks out there. Don't let me know the terrible tracks. Let me know the good tracks that you think I missed. Otherwise, if you did like the video, you can leave a like. And you can also subscribe to Overtake for more sim racing and racing game videos. I will see you next time. Goodbye.